This ain't the world we came from at all! I'm gonna kill him!
Welcome, the new shipment of freeze-dried space kimchi!
What is that thing? How long have I... Water. Water. What the fuck?
Why in the name of Takaya Noriko would they ever make a Fooly Cooly sequel? You got Gainax. It's not been the same since Panty and Stocking. You got Studio Trigger with a new IP on their hands every month. Every 2 months, 3 months, they got a new IP. Darling in the Franxx is bad anyway. And then you got Studio Khara, who's just a slave to God working on the newest Testament. And none of them are free or competent right now or in the correct shape to make a Fooly Cooly sequel. So any hope for this sequel you could ever have is dashed. Any hope you could have for the sequel is dashed. Any possible hope you could have for the sequel is dashed. Besides, they should be working on their own projects right now. Same for Production IG. Fooly Cooly doesn't need a sequel. You just want one because you have a voyeuristic obsession with Naota's life. And the irony, the true irony, is that all the answers you're looking for are in Fooly Cooly itself. Every character's arc is resolved, and the ending leaves room to interpret the story in all types of ways. In addition to an iconic coming-of-age story that's influenced an entire generation, Fooly Cooly is a reflection of the impermanent beauty in growing up. Like when Mamimi explains her feelings for Naota with that gloomy imagery, that fleeting pang of adolescent angst. How long can you harp on that? Or when Naota's head becomes the target beacon for the baseball bomb hurtling towards Mabase. That moment of being 12 or 13 when you realize you'll never be at this specific crossroads ever again. When Naota breaks down crying, feeling abandoned by Haruko for that vast, outside world. But in the end of Fooly Cooly, you understand that the next day comes, and that it doesn't feel much different from that climactic crossroads in the first place. And then Fooly Cooly's over! Congratulations! The brevity complements the themes perfectly, and we'll never catch that lightning in a bottle again! No! Instead, we'll just get a soulless cash grab that's just as unnecessary as all the reboots and sequels to all the old shit coming out right now. They did it to Eva, Toei did it to Digimon and Sailor Moon and almost all their other properties. Hell, they even did it to Roseanne! Fooly Cooly and Roseanne!
Fooly Cooly is a 2000 anime OVA series by the legendary studio Gainax. Nandaba Naota is a sixth grade boy getting mixed up with his older brother's ex-girlfriend, a Koga named Saladino Rami. She takes her rejection hard and projects a lot of it onto Naota. But that's not the only girl in his life he has to worry about. Enter Haruha Haruko, a 19-year-old housekeeper who runs over Naota with her cool Yusaka bike. Yuji Oda is moves into Naota's house after being bad and popular but is more concerned with Tokyo love story. In this series, his love interest Miko Space Patrol is Kanji instead of stopping Medical Mechanica. Anyone who saw the series probably made the twinkles of our Tokyo love story indeed what makes us into because really, what makes us even able to think. She's using extra-dimensional channels in people's heads to pull weapons out of nowhere, but Medical Mechanica can do the same.
Fans like
He just needs Naota's head to do it.
Why can't they see
But even then,
truly good about it?
that's still all a front. She's only after one of Medical Mechanica's prisoners of war, Atomotsuka. A known pirate king of the cosmos capable of stealing entire star systems.
He ever got with Hina
She wants him free.
Haruko too.
She wants his power.
I'd love to see a whole movie about her backstory.
Forget all of that in favor of a more grounded reading. that completely ignores the text. Tomino always said Gundam was a realistic wartime story about the horrors of war, but he got called out when the Gundam Hammer was introduced, a spike ball and chain at the end of a Gundam's arm. Tomino just said, well, it is just a giant robot anime after all. That's why Kamina says Gundam Hammer to show the cracks in Naoto's facade. Isn't that hilarious?
Okay. Sorry. That was a little too deep. I let you in a little too deep there. So, sorry about that. But, all I was trying to say was that I don't know how you could capture the spirit of Fooly Cooly without at least a few more members of the old staff there. That being said, I don't know if everyone's seen Fooly Cooly, so we're going to watch that, and then I'm going to do some research on these sequels, and then I'm going to talk about them, and hopefully not let you slip too far down whatever that just was. And then they all went their separate ways, and nothing of relevance ever happened with any of these people ever again. Anything the humans do is probably just as dull as before Haruko showed up, and anything Medical Mechanica does has already been foreshadowed. Haruko flies off into space, and she's never heard from again. Until, you know, like, 2016.
Now, I know everyone's probably concerned about the director and the screenwriter, Katsuyuki Motohiro and Hideto Iwai. However, I do think Iwai will add something really cool to the series, but I think you'll just have to check out the Cartoon Cyphers video about it. I am a little bit worried about Katsuyuki Motohiro because he does have mostly a background in live action, and he has done Psycho Pass, but I don't know how helpful having worked on Psycho Pass will be specifically. So I just kind of wish they had someone with a little more experience with anime. So even if Motohiro is a concerning choice, I do think he might just be a little bit overshadowed by this really impressive list of episode directors. But before we get to them, I want to talk about the really special character designers that we have on here too. Seeing Yoshiyuki Sadamoto's name in that trailer was a huge sigh of relief for me. The original guy who modeled Naota, Haruko, Shinji, Rei, and Nono. And for him to be paired with Chikachi Kubota was a total victory lap. This guy not only designed the characters for the One Punch Man anime, but was also an animator for Gurren Lagann, Die Buster, and Space Dandy. On top of that, you've got Kiyotaka Oshiyama coming in as mechanical designer. I really liked his fresh design sense and flip flappers, but if Buchan's brain-themed powered up form isn't enough for you, check out his work on Space Dandy episode 13. I need his mecha designs that include that personal touch and that almost biological sense that makes them so reminiscent of Fooly Cooly. Now time for those episode directors, and to continue the list of Flip Flappers alumni, let's talk about Hiroshi Ikehata and Kazuto Arai. Ikehata is an experienced episode director and director who handled two of my favorite episodes of Flip Flappers, and more recently the sleeper hit Mahojin Guru Guru. In Kazuto Arai, his animation cuts speak for him better than I ever could, especially his work on Mob Psycho 100. Just take a look at these clips. Now that's an explosion! Next we've got Kei Suezawa, who also did some stuff for Flip Flappers and Kill la Kill, but I thought it was interesting that he worked on the digital effects for a good portion of Den-O Coil. I really hope we see something like this in his episode, where the digital effects are applied with good reason and elevate the scenes overall. And then we have Yuki Ogawa, who basically made this entire series of shorts, Oyasamo Shishunki. The series' dry humor is emphasized by the cast's body language, and the short run makes for really lightning fast jokes. I like how the character acting adds to the comedy but never loses readability. He has this knack for drawing cute girls in really endearing ways, and I think the pacing of his writing above all is going to be the hard pill a new Fooly Cooly needs to swallow, but we'll get to that in a bit. For all the motion and visual representation Ogawa uses, Yoshihide Ibata has as much in the way of filling scenes with character and setting information. Look at how life is portrayed in these few shots from the 5th episode of Suisei no Gargantia. Even if this is the only episode of Gargantia you've seen, you already know so much about daily life in this show that you can draw your own conclusions about what you don't see. His ability to draw the most out of characters he has to work with is appreciable, and can be seen in all the shows he worked on. And the last one we have is Toshihi Sakaya, someone who's been working with Production IG since 1999's Jin-Ro. While his style may not lend itself to Fooly Cooly's more surreal or inventive moments, he can provide a sense of consistency for the series to make those moments hit even harder. That consistency can already be seen in his work on Haikyuu, Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex, and his short film Wasure Nagumo. So as far as progressive goes, the staff actually seems kind of okay. Like I said, Gainax, Trigger, and Kara don't really need to be working on rehashes of their old works anymore, but if Production IG is going to take it and roll with it, I don't really know who else we could ask for. Flip Flappers, Mob Psycho 100, and Kill la Kill staff? If this is going to play out like it seems, I think I can safely say I'm legitimately somewhat excited. Oh my god, please kill me. And of course we can't forget about Fooly Cooly Alternative. It's actually a joint production between Production IG, Studio Nut, and Studio Revelroot. Revelroot's done a lot of side work for people and everything like that, and so is Studio Nut. But Studio Nut actually produced their own series, Saga of Tanya the Evil, which I haven't seen, and I don't know how relevant it is to the whole discussion, but it is there. If you like that show, then maybe that's good. Now, I was lucky enough to catch the April Fool's airing of the first episode of Fooly Cooly Alternative, but don't worry, I'm not going to spoil anything. I am going to give my thoughts on that episode, though, so if you don't want to hear anything about it at all, you have been warned. Right off the bat, something I really like was that we're actually going to get some old Pillow songs in this OST that weren't in Fooly Cooly. So a bunch of their hits that came out after the show are actually going to make it into this soundtrack, which I think is really nice, especially when you see in the credits that they actually have full-on cool version at the end. So that means we're getting reprised hits from the Pillows, which I think is really awesome, even though the show is kind of bad. It does mean that even if the show ends up bad, it does mean that we will get more really awesome Pillows music, so that is a plus no matter what.
But as the episode goes on, I start to realize like what they're kind of going for with this series, which is more of like a slice of life, like, you know, 4 girlfriends, you know, having fun and doing that type of stuff, which is fine, but I don't think it really meshes with Fooly Cooly, and they're going to have to work really, really hard to blend those genres together. You know, Fooly Cooly with all its sci-fi shit, and it's very, very minimal, you know, hinted at sort of story, you know, in the with the human aspect of it. But here, it takes up a lot of time, and it doesn't use that time well. So what do we end up with? We end up with an art style that's pretty serviceable, but a lot of problems with the writing and directing. And before we move any further, I do want to talk about Haruko's character design for Alternative specifically, which is different from Progressive. So the Alternative one, if you just look at it, it's kind of bad. Overall, it just makes her less striking because, you know, there's no this focus on like red and pink, and it's like bam and bam, and then like the only yellow bits on her before that were her gloves, and like those sort of faded into the background. But this big yellow jacket she has on is a different yellow from the fucking Vespa. What the fuck? And the whole slice of life flavor doesn't really stop at just the plot. It's also kind of directed like one, which, again, there's nothing wrong with that style necessarily, but does it fit with Fooly Cooly? Well, we get this one leg shot, which, you know, the slice of life shows, they always use the legs. They show, you know, they show the skirt, they show the legs for you know, to emote in a different way, and it's creative. But the thing about the shots in those series is that they actually have some type of motion to them in addition to the motion, whereas in Fooly Cooly Alternative, it was just sort of like they move slightly, and it just shows where they're positioned, which we already know from the other shots. So it didn't really do anything for me. It just kind of felt like, I don't know, like, you know, you like cute girl shows? This is what they do. Do you like it? We're doing it. But they're not doing it to any good effect. And then here's where we get to the big eyesore, the big sore thumb, the big canker sore on the off-chewed side of my nervous tongue as I wait for Fooly Cooly to be done justice. The fucking montage. Again, no spoilers, but I could not let this moment pass without talking about the big grand reveal of the song My Foot, Fool on Cool version. The background music for the least interesting episode padding, throw in a few random lines about the story part of the episode, and it made me seriously scared, seriously quaking in my boots for the quality of Fooly Cooly Alternative. The fucking worst part? My Foot is a really, really good Pillow song, so from where I'm standing, they're just jamming in really good Pillows music to the worst parts of the episode to make me forget how bad it is. And that's really the biggest problem I can see with Alternative. Remember what I said about the pacing being a hard pill to swallow? Right from the get-go, we see Naota and Mimimi interacting with their conflict right in the audience's face. Every scene has this, and nothing feels like it needs to be shortened. That's what it means when people say Fooly Cooly is densely packed. In Alternative, though, time is wasted even outside the montage scene. The last shot of the episode shows these 3 rockets going off, just like the one Kana sees in the beginning, so you get this sense like, all 4 of them have taken off now. But I can't help but wonder why they all couldn't have taken off at the beginning of episode 1, so we didn't have to waste all this time for everyone's story to start. So one of them looks good and one of them looks bad. That's going to be a doozy. Well, there's only a couple things left to do then. Well, time to prepare. Gotta study the dialogue of Gainax Mecha now. Who the fuck are my Vienna sausages? Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss me eating my words when it turns out to be shit. And maybe share this video with anyone who might like it. What does Eva Rebuild have to say about Gurren Lagann, has to say about End of Eva, has to say about Gunbuster? Find out next time when I break it all down, Tsurumaki style. After that, more Fooly Cooly content until June. See you later.